as I try, and a certain way of thinking that I fear we're left behind before you say who's got it right, before you tell me that I'm wrong. Well, there's a lot to be said about knowing where you've come from. I'm not talking about religion, but something buried in our blood. And maybe the emotions of past generations still course through my pulse. And when the living cleared their houses, the Bibles were buried, not burnt. Well, there's a lot to be said about knowing where you've come from. Scientists on the TV says that we're all the descendants of stars, born in a fiery furnace somewhere far across the universe. Well, I found it hard to join the dots between me and the light of the sun, but there's a lot to be said about knowing where you've come from. And a cascade of memories might flash past my eyes as we think of changing and shutting the front door for the final time. Sometimes we put roots down, and sometimes they get torn up. There's a lot to be said about knowing where you've come from. Scientists on the TV says that we're all the descendants of stars, born in a fiery furnace somewhere far across the universe. Well, I found it hard to join the dots between me and the light of the sun. Well, there's a lot to be said about knowing where you come from. The scientist on the TV says that we're all the descendants of stars, born in a fiery furnace somewhere far across the universe. Well, I found it hard to join the dots between me and the light of the sun. There's a lot to be said about knowing where you come from. There's a lot to be said about knowing where you come from. There's a lot to be said about knowing where you come from.
Well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. Yeah, well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. There's potatoes on the sink and there's cat and on the stove. Can't get in cause he's blocking the door. A tap on the window and you give him a shave. Now well, the Kenny all your whole life, he's out for the kinder. You're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. Yeah, well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. Yeah, there's holes in the walls, they've been there for years. Not to mention the empty beers. If you check the date, you might get a fright. He said, I pulled them out the peep bank last night. Well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. Yeah, well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your whole life. After that day at the cat in the moon. Yeah, cat in the moon, yeah, cat in the moon, yeah, cat in the moon, yeah. Cat in the moon, yeah, cat in the moon, yeah, cat in the moon, yeah. bottles everywhere. I can't even get a seat in the chair. Oh, well, Kenny, what's that smell? Hello, Copperfield Hotel. You're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Oh, sit down, don't be daft. You're having a dram, but I don't have a glass. I had to pour it into my beer. It was time for me to get footy here. You're gonna have a session with the Kenny on your own way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny on your own way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia. Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia. Session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Well, you're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Gonna have a session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. You're gonna have a session with the Kenny all your way. After a day at the Garden Ammonia. Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia. Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia, Garden Ammonia.
Hello, hello, hello. How are we all doing? Welcome to We Studio Records Twitch channel. Twitch stream number 3, I think. No, 4. Twitch stream number 4. So today is a big day. Today is a big day because we have a track getting released tomorrow from my sister from another mister, Abigail Pryde. One of my best friends. She's uber talented, multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, toured the world, totally under the radar until tomorrow. So we have a single out. It's of the country rock genre. Hello, Laureate123. How are you doing today? Have you been up to much since I last spoke to you? I hope so. I hope you've been busy. I hope you've been taking advantage of weather if it's been nice. I am super excited for this. As am I. So this one is going to be either so much fun for you or seriously dull for you. This one is a technical deep dive into a Pro Tools project session. Even if it is boring for you, please stick around. And we'll hang out. We'll be mates. And not be lonely. Thank you very much, Open Horizon. Nice to see you again. And thank you so much for your Skyrim help. Yeah, boy. So first of all, I think we'll jump into the video, and we'll watch the video first, and then I'll explain. If I can catch this before it starts, I cannot. I'll explain how the video was made and why the video was made. A lot of this is Abigail's heart. Kyle, what is the crack yourself? Looking forward to this stream, studying sound production and currently on the mixing side of things. So this will come in handy for applying to the course. Fantastic, Kyle. Fantastic. You will love that course. I guarantee you. The best thing about recording, mixing, editing is it doesn't feel like work very often. Don't get me wrong. It can be very hard work with long hours, but you don't mind doing it when you're having fun. So I'm sure that's the same while you're studying it. And it's fun. It doesn't feel like real work. And that's That's why we do what we do, right? That's why we're musicians. This is just the same. So, without further without hanging around, I'm going to play this for you, and we'll chat after.
Work I later.
Expectations burning in my brain. Don't try me, don't push me, I'm not playing that game. I'm a lady, but you ain't got a pity. Think I'm standing here just to look pretty. I'm not one for the little black dress. I praise the girls with that finesse. Lady, not a honey, not a baby, not a diva. Just a fighter, how I drive her. A lady and a worker giving orders. Not a wife, just living lifetime wine or water. Lady, not a darling, smiling for you, not a diva. No, I'm not dramatic either. A lady, open politics and lipsticks. Just wearing pink, see what I think. I'm working these colors. Sometimes I think that I can go it alone. I'm fearless and laughing, throw me up from the throne. Not afraid to ask when I need a hand, but it don't mean I'm any less grand. I'm not one for the little black dress. I praise the girls with that finesse. Lady, not a honey, not a baby, not a diva. Just a fighter, how I drive her. A lady and a
Let me know what you think in the chat, guys.
not a wife, just living lifetime wine or water. Lady, not a darling, smiling for you, not a diva. No, I'm not dramatic either. A lady, open politics and lipsticks. Just wearing pink, see what I think. I'm looking these colors. I welcome some kindness, it'll always be free. I thank my friends, that's what they've given me. But don't be mistaken, I'll never be weak. Just watch your mouth, don't call me princess. Lady, not a honey, not a baby, not a diva. Just a fighter, how I drive her. A lady and a worker giving orders. Not a wife, just living lifetime wine or water. Lady, not a darling, smiling for you, not a diva. No, I'm not dramatic either. A lady, open politics and lipstick. Just wearing pink, see what I think. I'm looking these colors.
So there we go. There we go. So we have to say hello to Abigail. I think she's in chat. If anyone has any questions for her, she may be here. She may not. So what do we think? What do we think? Loudon Mackay, who is an absolutely fantastic judge of music, says banging. Open Horizon sounds great. Thank you very much. Laureate123, absolutely class. And Kyle says, absolutely love the track, Keith. Fair play, cracking work, Abigail. Spot on, both the video and the mix. Yes, 5 minutes till I'm back teaching the pots and pans. So Abigail is she's teaching youngsters music which is giving back. Don't you just love that? I bet she's amazing at it. Sean Haddison, hook of a chorus, great singing, beautiful video, top production, especially that snare and dual piano. Nice ear, Sean. Nice ear. Well picked up. So yeah, it's been an absolute. Let's talk about Abigail before she shoots off. It's been an absolute pleasure making all of this stuff from scratch with Abigail. Such a big project, and in a way, it was probably one of the most important things I've done. Abigail made a name for herself playing with a band we're both in called Head and Valley, and we've been traveling about doing that with a group of guys who are all incredibly talented, and having adventures. So it was time for Abigail to figure out her own solo stuff, her own music, to put her thoughts onto paper and not be constrained to genres or anything. Just basically grabbed her, pulled her into the studio and went, we're making something and we can make whatever you want to make. And this is 2 years of graft. This is 2 years of hard work. Especially these days, making it work. And I'll explain the challenges we had and the ways we overcame it. But most of the time, these things were made with me and Abigail sitting in a room with 2 guitars, or her and the fiddle, with a notepad, or getting lyrics sent to you at midnight for you to check over, or revisions of things, recording while she was there, recording while she wasn't there, troubles with travel or weather. Tough to do, but I was really, 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 really keen to get Abigail onto the record label because I wanted to do something really high production, really professional, not just for Abigail, but for myself, for the label. Sometimes when you have a studio in a small place, there can be the perception that it can't compete with the big boys. So that was aim number 1, was to get this really, really, really good. And the whole album is incredible. The whole album is I'm so proud of her. Like, she's absolutely nailed it. And it's not easy to do. You've got to overcome a lot of self-confidence issues and things like that. Big GMK83, great new track. Love the fresh sound for Abigail. Do you handle video production in-house as well as the audio, Keith? Yes, I do. I am blessed in the way that I can choose what I want to do in my life, in my work. I own the business, so I can choose what to learn or what to do. And for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been doing video production and editing as well. It's another fun thing to do. So I've been doing a lot of that, a lot of filming gigs, music videos, wedding videos, even interviews, TV, anything like that. Hello to Callum as well. Callum Mack, I didn't say hello to you, and thanks to everybody that followed the last couple of days. Big GMK83, thank you for the follow an hour ago. Pryde 22, thank you very much for the follow. I wonder which Pryde that is. But yeah, it's tomorrow is a big day. It's already been getting lots of good exposure on internet radio stations and things like that, and local radio stations. So tomorrow's a big day, and we're hoping for a lot out of this. But in the meantime, we're just trying to get it to set it up for more. We're hoping this will be a spark to secure some cool gigs to play, some cool tours to do, to get out and meet people and perform things that we love doing. Fiona username, absolutely brilliant. Was really looking forward to hearing and seeing this video. Perfect video and perfect song. Love the grit and power this portrays. Just brilliant. Well, I think Fiona username is my biggest fan, so that could be absolute junk and she would still send a lovely message like that. But it's not. I know it's not. I'm very proud of this. And when I listen to it, fills me with absolute joy. Fills me with joy. So we're gonna let Abigail head off to her to teach. If anybody's got any messages for Abigail, please leave them in the chat. She'll check them out later. But we are going to delve deep. We are going to go into the deep, dark depths of Pro Tools. So everybody, let me know if this is kind of clear enough. If you can see what's going on. I'll be explaining stuff with my voice anyway, so you kind of get the ideas and what we're doing. Now this sounds slightly different because this is the unmastered version. There's some mastering going on, but I got pulled out of the project and I got mastered afterwards. So as you can see down here, we've got all the channels. So and within these are folders. So for example, main vocals, you open it up and there's more channels. I don't know if anybody's used great company while I'm working away here. Wii Studio, absolute magical. Which Pryde is that? Which Pryde are you? Pryde 22. Emojis. I'm guessing it might be Michelle. We'll see. Hi, Abigail. Love. Fantastic. So here's the channels. Here's the Pro Tools session. And this is how it ends up. And this is quite tidy. While you're working on it, it can get crazy. It can get crazy, especially if you've got lots of ideas. If you're a performer, a writer, an engineer, a mixing engineer, and an editor all together, you skip corners to come back and sort it out later. Sometimes you're just like fighting stuff on to get ideas down, and then you're coming back to at the next day and you're going, oh wow, okay, I got to sort this out. Or you always kind of change things up and you do things different ways. This mix was actually heavily inspired by a book I read recently by a mixing engineer called Billy Decker. Billy Decker mixes loads of country tracks in Nashville, and he's got loads of number ones. And he was very kind online in forums and Facebook pages and stuff that I frequent, and he always answers questions. He's an open book, and he's very kind. And it got to a point where I sent him a mix from this album, not this one, but another one, because I'd read his book about how to get a good country sound, and adapted a lot of it into this mixing once I got to the mixing stage, basically to get his blessing. If I had taken the theories and ideas and put them down, I wanted this to work. I didn't want this to sound like it was made by a guy that was brought up in Stornoway in the Isle of Lewis. I wanted this to sound genuine and do the genre justice. So it was good to get the green light really from Billy, and some little tweaks from his experience. So hopefully this doesn't Pryde. So let's start from the beginning. So we've got a wee intro here, and this is an open mic that was playing when we were tracking Acoustic Guitar. This was just like the demo recording, and I kept it in because it's a really lovely moment where it's like looking behind the curtain of me and Abigail bouncing ideas around. It's only 10 seconds long, but you can hear her tone, the encouragement, the constant respect we have for each other while we're building. No idea is a bad idea, and there's no bad vibes when I work. Every idea has merit. Nothing gets shot down. Everyone has a level playing field while you're making it. So in here, I was trying to make like the riff, the da-dun. I heard it in my head. I kind of felt it, but I was trying to find it, and you'll just hear a wee bit of encouragement.
Work I layer.
I love that. You can actually hear the click in the background. And that's coming out of the speakers. We had the click loud just to get the demo down, and it stayed. I really like it. I like the wee laugh, because she could tell that I was just mucking around trying to find something.
Work I later.
So that's the start I liked, and I put the click in time so that once that finished and you got the big ba 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 ba, I just wanted it to perk ears up, to go to like switch a light bulb on so people go, oh, this is a proper thing. This is going to be, I'm staying for this, basically. So this is it with the bangs coming in.
Work I later.
Expectation.
Okay, so why don't we go from there? So what's coming in here?
Work I later.
So first of all, the main part of this sound is the acoustic guitar. And how I recorded this was a single mic. I think it was an Octava 013, which is a mic that Steve Albini loves. He always puts on snares. It's a Russian microphone. And if you're ever using it with another microphone, be really careful because these Russian microphones are wired back to front. So if you put that microphone and another Western microphone beside each other, they'll cancel each other out. You have to flip the phase. That's if you're ever in that situation, if you have that mic. So I think I used one of those mics, and where I put it on the guitar, I'll show you. 2 seconds. Okay, so here's my new guitar. I didn't record with this one, but it's a Loudon. What model is it? 025. Lovely guitar. But where I put the microphone was halfway between here and here, about that distance out. And where you put a microphone, the angle, the distance, and where on this body changes more than anything. Like, that changes more than if you change the microphone, the preamp, the strings, anything. Moving the microphone around, you've got an infinite amount of sound opportunities out of an instrument like this. Everywhere you point will sound completely different. A really good way of thinking about it, or a really good way of identifying that, is plunk some headphones on, put the microphone through your desk or your interface, and just listen to that. Play a wee bit and move it, play a wee bit and move it, record a wee bit and then listen, because that'll sound different again. Learn, every guitar is different. So the point where I put this guitar on the recording might sound awful on this guitar, even though this is a really nice guitar. The magic of this guitar might be somewhere else. So okay, so let's listen to what I did was I did 2 takes of the guitar as close as I could. Now, I was talking about this when I was going over the Pete and Diesel mix, where if you do 2 takes as close as possible with guitars, and you pan the first take over to one speaker, or right over, and you pan the other take over to the other speaker, unless you know what you're listening for, it sounds like one guitar, just really lush. It works really well with acoustics. It works kind of good with electrics, but for acoustics, it's a great sound. So let's listen to the acoustics. So what do you think? Does that sound like 1 or 2? So this is one guitar. And here's the other. And here's the 2 together. Lovely, lovely wooden. We'll have a look at the plugins. Open Horizon. I'm away to go get that mic to show you what it is. Okay, hello. So, comes in a cool wooden box, Octava MK012. So if I put that up there, I'll type it in the chat. That's what I'll do, just in case you want to search it. They're not expensive, and I use them all the time. Is it a? I'm not sure if it's a K or a C. I think it's a C. But there it is. Together sounds immense. Very wide and broad. Full-bodied sound. Love it. Yeah, so acoustics love to be multiplied. They also love to be in stereo. So let's show you the mic. It comes in a cool case like that with loads of different parts. So this is the mic body. That's where the XLR goes into. And you get this piece here. So that piece is a pad. It's a 10 dB pad. So if you're putting it on something loud like a snare drum, you might want to pull the volume down. And here's the capsule. Focus. There you go. So that screws on like this. What's good about that is you can buy other capsules to make the mic different polar pattern. There we go. Cool Russian mic. Metal, feels cold, from the Soviet era. Yeah, it's just got a really nice clear sound, but without giving up the low end. Thank you, Open Horizon. Geez, if anyone has any other questions, please just get in the chat. The more that's in the chat, the more fun everyone will have. I promise you. So I think it was that one. I think it was that mic I recorded with. I've got a bad habit of forgetting which mics I used. I'll hop onto a microphone for a couple of weeks and then it'll go back in the box and I'll fall in love with another one. But that's the magic of it. But sounds good is good, right? If you use a microphone and you go, that's the one, and you're dead happy and you move on. So before we go into plugins and stuff, let's start soloing other stuff. So here's the bass. I'm not the best bass player in the world, but I got it tight enough. Sounds like a bass guitar, right? Happy days. So that was using my Fender Jazz Bass. We'll look into it in a second, but I don't think I used... No, I didn't use any amps for that. I just went straight into the DI and mixed it. It suited it. Okay, so let's go further up. Let's have a look at the vocals. And let's solo them for a laugh.
Expectations burning in my brain. Don't try me, don't push me, I'm not playing that game. I'm a lady, but you ain't got a pity. Think I'm standing here just to look pretty.
What a voice, right? I hope she's not here still. She'd be really embarrassed. But one of the best singers I've ever worked with. Like, it's so hard to record like that. It's so hard to record as perfect as that, basically. And when Abigail's recording vocals, when we're making stuff, it's not set in stone. We didn't have a chance to have a band because of COVID and traveling. So everything was half done at the studio, which is a really nice way to do it because you can take your time and make decisions rather than making a decision quickly so a band can start playing with you. And when I was in here recording it and Abigail was in another room singing, I had my piano beside me and I'd go, okay, that melody is a bit too obvious. Let's spin them around. And she's amazing at going, and she'd just go, okay. And she's got it. Like, no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to trip her up, it was just total focus, total understanding, her natural talent of understanding melodies and rhythms and applying that to her voice box was like out of this world. Sometimes it's really hard if you're used to singing one way and someone tells you to do it a different way. It takes a wee while to unlearn something and bring it back in. But she was so adaptable, so easy at that. And it gave me confidence to go, this might sound bad, but let's give it a go. And we wouldn't waste any time. And we both agree, okay, that's a bad way to go, but let's try something else. And that was consistent through the whole thing. I think there was one song that we had a chorus for maybe 8 months, and we changed it on the last day of tracking the vocals. Bang! And she just nailed it. She just got it done. And now it's weird to hear the original way. The new way sounds like the way it always was. So that's her main vocals. Abigail also did some backing vocals, which she didn't do here. A lot of the recording of this album was done either in Abigail's flat, in her parents' caravan, or in her father's shed. I sent her down an interface and a microphone for obvious reasons, and she had to learn how to do this herself a wee bit. So here's a really good example of what Abigail sent up unprompted. This song was nearly done, and she went, "I've made some backing vocals." What do you think? What do you think? Let me know. So that's 3 vocals. This is vocal number 1. This is vocal number 2. Lush. Agreed. And pitch perfect, right? Shame there's no more Abigails. We could have a sick choir. So the start we've heard. I think these are the acoustics we've heard. The fact she sent that unprompted is amazing. Yes. Uber talented. And not afraid to jump into a world she's not been in, like recording, production, engineering, anything like that. She's just absolutely refreshing to work with. Okay, so electrics. So there was two electrics here. One of them was me. If I can find it. Keith's guitars. Okay. Look at all this. Look at this mess. Okay, this folder here and these red guys down here, these are my electric guitars. I recorded these in Watercolor Studios. I think it was around 7:30 in the morning, and we were staying over. It was an amazing studio in Ardgour near Fort William. My friend Nick Turner runs it. And I was just making parts, and this survived, this stuff here. So here's an example of some electrics. So that was a Fender Strat through a cheap, small combo. Just tuned to get that rattly, stringy sound. Not too much distortion, just bright, cutting through. You can hear the strings. Now, if you noticed, I did the 2 things there too. So this is the first one. This is the second one. And the 2 together. Interesting to hear that an important part of your job is to be able to push and challenge artists to get the best out of them. That is such a good point. Big GMK83. Were you born in 1983? Are you my age? I was born in 1983, so we're both 25. Yes, it's such a large part of this is is human interaction. It's building people's confidence up is such a large thing. Giving them drive, supporting them when they need support, helping them realize what they have is such a big thing. Especially if somebody is kind and thoughtful like Abigail. She's very humble of her talents. So even though when she's at work, when she's like here working, building, she's focused and hardworking, she's humble and she's really humble. So you need to make her stretch further than she would, or you need to give her like a security net to know that if this messes up, it's no big deal. We'll just do another one. Let's be more scared of not trying than be scared of failing. So, I mean, I've been doing this 20 years now, and the biggest thing I was glad to develop was people skills, was making a nice vibe, was making people want to do it, making this fun and making it an exciting thing to do. It's a point they really hammer into us in college too, very much a people-orientated job. Yes, absolutely. So many people get into this job to look after this. To look after equipment, to look after microphones and speakers, but that's just a ticket to get into the show. The real show is the people. The real show is the community and the vibe you create and the connections you make, and that's what's made me a happy person, is working with really talented, exciting people like that. The people aspect is why I want to get involved in the industry. Well, you figured it out. You figured it out. You can learn to hear anything. You can learn what any plugin does. You can put the same mic position as the greats. You can learn all that. You can't learn how to be a kind, humble person, always willing to learn and put your own, a lot of the time, put your own desires in the back burner to build someone up. That's such a big part of this. Like to put your ego in a box and put it away for the benefit of someone else. That's a hard thing to learn, especially if you're an entertainer, especially if you're a musician. You know, you have the desire to show off. You have the desire to be loved, I think. And sometimes you got to put that away for the greater good. And that's a big thing to learn. But yeah, the people aspect, if you've ever been in a band and hanging out or learning music with your friends versus learning music on your own, that's the biggest eye-opening thing. Learning with your friends isn't a chore ever. It's always the best crack. That's why Scottish traditional musicians get so highly trained. They don't even know they're learning. They're just jamming. They get to a point where they can play with each other, and then they just rocket ship it into the atmosphere. So there's some more electrics here. Just once it builds up, I add more, as you would. Let's unsolo these so we can hear the others. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so this is like a higher off to the other side. Oops. Then we got like a... Oh, this guy's struggling. So, just another electric, different tone. Single note, just sustain. Just to give it another texture once the chorus comes back in, just to help it evolve. Chromatic going down. Okay. So, that's my electrics. So my electrics were the rhythm one. One of Abigail's friends, Pete, pulled in this at the end and sent it up to us. Struggling because I'm recording at the same time. So that's cool. So that mixed in sounds like this. And then at the end it goes bang, 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 bang. Finish off. And the last thing we put on is my specialty, really. It is the keys. So what we have here is, this looks kind of busy. So we've got a piano. We've got, did I keep that sub in? No, I didn't. We've got a couple of synths, an organ, and a couple of redundant tracks that I never got rid of. So first of all, let's listen to the piano plugin. Simple, right? Sean, this is for you. So I can play quite complex stuff. When you're building a track and learning, sometimes you've got to go, now's not the time. Now, don't play now. Just, that's all it needed. You'll hear it. It's really, really boring to play, right? But it's all the track needed. And then it does kind of similar stuff near the end, but alternates a wee bit. Fascinating, right? We'll look at the plugin in a minute. And I had a synth down here. Let's see what that's doing. Oh, I think this synth was I just wanted to get real dirty at the end. I wanted it just to go and I wasn't getting it from tweaking the guitars. So I put a synth in it that you don't recognize as a synth. It's just dirt. It could be a distorted bass, it could be a distorted guitar, you're not sure. Ouch! Sorry. See, you'd never know that was there. Madness. Sounds like a blown speaker. So these are the kind of decisions that, these are like icing on the cake. That's like a producer kind of decisions, like it needs this flavor, it needs that taste, kind of similar to like a chef would make something, you know. So let's look at the drums finally. Where are the drums? So they're in here. So the drums are quite complicated. The drums, and that I have to say thank you to Billy Decker for some advice here, some new plugins, so this SSL channel here is a new plugin to me that I got. This JST clip, it's a new plugin to me, which game changer. So first of all, let's just listen to the drums, see what they're doing. Nothing until I do this. Big shout out to my best friend DC McMillan, who is like my resident drummer on the island. He plays in all the bands I play in, most notably Face the West. If you've ever heard Face the West, we have a new album coming out soon too. Talented drummer. I've known him since he was a wee fellow. And multi-genre. He's got more snare drums than I've had hot dinners, that kind of guy. So I had MIDI drums that I played on the keyboard, just with samples, and I sent it to DC. And then he recorded these by himself, I think. He's got a nice little recording setup, and then sent it to me. So I didn't even have to record this. He's a magician. So we got it back. We got some acoustic drums in it. It's really good. So first of all, we've got some samples triggered. We've got lots of samples triggered. So every time DC hits a kick drum, we get a sample as well. So is it bypassed? That's the standard. And that's it with the sample. Will Face the West be tooting again once we're back to normality? Yes, absolutely. The timing is quite good for Face the West, actually. Our fiddle player, Jane Hepburn, is about to have her second baby in the next couple of months. So I think we're going to be aiming for touring not this summer. I doubt many people will be this summer, but next summer we'll be hitting it hard and doing some big shows. That's why we're hoping to release our album in the next few months. In fact, we're going to, I'm going to finish off all these mixes with you guys. I'm going to, instead of just showing you a mix, you're going to come with me. There's one track I have to change some backing to. Otherwise, I'm doing a lot of mixing. So you're going to come with me on a journey. If you want to hear the new album before anyone, come and help me mix it. I'll be asking you, what do you think of this sound? What do you think of that? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Really looking forward to the new Face the West album. Yes, me too. That has been a labor of love. Okay, that has been, I've spent more hours on that music than anything in my entire life. Every single sound, every synth sound, every note, every chord, every rhythm change has been meticulously designed from scratch. There's been no shortcuts on this. This is something else, and I hope people listen to it. I hope they just, even if they don't like it, I want people to listen to it. That's the hardest part. We've got one track out called Angus the Winemaker, which we put out a few months ago, which kind of gives you a taster of the vibe. It's really modern. So I'm hoping that the people like that. I'm hoping it doesn't become hated by all the people that like modern music, don't like bagpipes and fiddles. And the people that like bagpipes and fiddles don't like modern music. So it turns into something that nobody likes, apart from a select few like myself. But we'll see. So that's the kick drum. And we're going to leave that on and we're going to pull this up. So the SSL channel. So this is a Waves plugin. And apparently this is very common plugin to use because it's close to the SSL desk, the physical desk that engineers use. I play that song in the car all the time. Love it. Thank you very much, Mother. Cool. So how it works is you've got the filters up here. This one here is your high pass filter. So I'm cutting it at like 70 hertz, which seems like a lot, but with this SSL thing, it's not a steep curve. It doesn't get rid of everything below 70. It's quite a shallow curve. So there's still quite a lot of low end here. I'm boosting 8 kilohertz, to get that click. I'm boosting that by nearly 6 dB, 5.7. I'm boosting mid frequencies just above 1K, 4 dB. That's to get a different flavor of kick. Just it's kind of making it wider to get plenty of top end and click, and that's a thin one. So you kind of identify where the click is with this frequency range here, and then every drum's different. Every drum's got different size, different click. So the nice sound is going to be, the magic's going to be somewhere, and you find it and boost that. Then a really good tip for mixing kick drums, there's always going to be a lot of woof, not woof, like blankety sound, and sometimes you don't want that if you want it violent. So I found mine here at 250 hertz, and I just pulled it down -12. I didn't want any of it. Fesker ma pal, pots and pans for crack. Absolutely brilliant. How many students did you have? Any new DC Macmillans? So this one here, this knob decides how thin or how wide, basically how much of the other frequencies. Do you want to just a frequency you chose, or do you want loads of the frequencies on either side? Do you want to pull it down by? And then I boosted the low end after cutting it at the top. I boosted it again down here. And am I using the compressor? Yes, you can see here. This compressor here, these are the settings I use just to take the top end out of it. Just to take the loudest part out. You can see it just turning that number 3 light on. So I think it might be fun to listen to before, after, and then before. So this was, no, before then after. This is before this plugin. And then, can you hear the difference? I'll bypass it again. And then back on. Can you hear how much cleaner and produced that sounds? It's off. on. There we go. And then finally, this is my favorite EQ plugin of all time, FabFilter Pro Q3. So what's amazing about this is it's totally technical, and it's got loads and loads of features. You can go really deep with it. It's got a thing called dynamic EQing. So the EQ will look at the volume of that EQ and it will automatically play around with it to what you want. And you can see what's going on. This is the kick drum now, so you can see it. This is the low end and this is the high end. So I'll bypass it. So that's what it sounded like before. But I needed to get rid of some of the mid and give it some more click. There we go. Much better. So that was the kick. And here it is again. So that's a big decision. And sometimes I mix the drums as a whole like that, and sometimes I mix the drums when the track's on. But what I usually do is I'll mix the drums first, and then I'll mix the track, and then I'll come back to the drums to finish it off. Love the waveform graphic in the EQ window, not in Cubase standard EQs, unfortunately. No, it's quite a clever thing. What's amazing about this is it'll show you where your peaks are. So if you hold this here, see what it's showing you. So you can have the frequencies showing, or you can have the notes showing. I had the notes showing because you got pitch on bottom too. Do I? Oh, question mark. No, I don't think so. So this is just shows you where the peaks are. So if you had a frequency that was annoying you because it was too loud, or if it was an instrument like a bass guitar and one note was too loud and the rest was fine, this would show you where it was, and you could just grab this point and you could just pull it down. You can also look at if you've got this plugin on other channels, you can see where the problems are. So for example, if I take the bass plugin with the kick plugin, where it's glowing red here, can you see it? That is because the kick drum frequencies there are sometimes clashing with the bass guitar frequencies there. Can you see it better now? That is good, because sometimes if you've got too much mud in the bass or whatever, you can sacrifice that frequency of one of the channels. So if it's more important to have the bass guitar singing at 62 hertz, you could cut out, thank you very much, Pro Tools. You can cut out that frequency in the kick drum, and then the things will kind of like fit together better like that instead of like that. It gets you a nice smoother sound and things aren't clashing. Kick drum and bass guitar is a really good example, because if a kick drum and a bass guitar hit at the same time, you want it to be the most satisfying thing in the world. You want them two instruments to turn into one. You want it to sound like when the bass guitar hit the thing, the kick happened automatically. So this plugin is worth. I could mix a track with just this plugin and one good compressor. This plugin is so powerful, and it's such a detailed tool, and it's a cheats. There's so much cheating involved because you can see where the problems are rather than trying to guess by hearing, and it's not good to rely on that, especially if you're trying to be creative and artistic. Sometimes if things are clashing, it makes the track. You can't assume that everything needs to have space and everything needs to be clear. Some of the best recordings over the decades have been clashy. Oasis is a good example. That those albums are just clashing all over the place. But if they made that clean and nice, it would get rid of all of the attitude. So let's look at the snare. So I've actually got two snares here. Now, when DC snare hits, it triggers two samples. That's just to make it thicker. It's just to make it cut through. The snare sound is so important. The snare sound is is what makes it cool or not. It's what defines your genre. If I hear an amazing song with a bad snare sound, I'm off it. I'm done. However, the other way around, if it's a bad song with a good snare sound, I'm in. It's funny. The snare is such an important part of this. The drums as a whole are as well. So let's listen to the two snare drums together. Mental, right? It doesn't sound anything like that when it's together. The reason being is I've got this overhead pair here. And when you hear that with the snares, the samples were chosen and pitched, compressed and EQ'd with the overhead channel on, because you're using the samples to augment the snare that's already there. So that's just the snare drums and the overheads. And that's the snare drums by themselves. They sound awful by themselves, but once it's all mixed together, it's exactly what it needed. So let's listen to the first one. So trigger again, using a Gretsch snare, SSL channel, some EQ tweaks here, not too many, and a bit of compression. And right, here's a magic plugin. This cost me like £25 or something like that. What this is this is a clipper. So it's taking the bottom and the top of the waveform and it's just chopping it off to give it texture. It's actually a kind of distortion. So let's hear that before and after. This might make a big difference. So this is before and after. It's subtle on this one, but see when it's added up in a few channels, this gave it warmth like I've never experienced. On, off, on. So here is the second snare. This one's got a totally different sound. This is over the top. Over the top. So these are actually snare samples from Billy Decker's snare sample collection. So one that he worked on. It was just a quick way to throw it in. I did some EQing on it to make it fit. Took out the low end. I boosted the high end. And then I boosted the low mids. And I boosted the low quite a lot. So we can hear what it's like before and after this plugin. So this is before. And after. So I'm compressing that load. See how it was much louder before? And then I started compressing it like 6 dB there. I didn't want this sample for the hit. The hit was coming from the overheads in the other sample. I needed this one for the power afterwards. So the room noise of that snare would cut through in the mix. So let's hear the drums all together again. Now what I'll do is, sorry it's a bit loud. What I'll do is I'll play the drums and I'll take out this snare. That's it out. Hear how dry it is. And then back in. Out. In. Out. It's just adding that room noise, which is what I wanted. And that's why it's getting compressed hard. Good attack on that snare. Atta boy. So overheads. Which overheads did I use here? This will tell us. Okay. These overheads were a clever mic. I'm going to show you. 2 seconds. So this is a Slate ML2. Focus. There we go. Can you see it? And this is a smart little cookie. This, you can see, is a switch for normal or dynamic. This microphone is they've tuned it to be as flat as possible, so it doesn't have a characteristic. It's meant to be a flat boring microphone. And then so you record with this mic, and if you can see this plug in here, you can choose the microphone that this is. Just now it's a S414 normal, and I will bet my bottom dollar that is meant to be AKG 414. And there's loads of other microphones here, so you can hear the difference. So let's listen. Let's have a play. Let's listen to the overheads and change the microphone. Let's see if it makes a difference. So this is a 414 that it recorded with, and we can change it to. Let's change it to like AKG 451, which is like their little pencil condenser mic, and let's see if you can hear a difference. And change. Here the cymbals have so much more sizzle. And then back. Get more low end. Let's custom snare 57. Let's see what that sounds like. Way more mids. A tube mic. A dynamic ribbon mic. Much more muffled. Hear that compared to that. So many sound choices, but this is the one that seemed the most open to me. And we're using a lot of the overheads. They're quite loud, so cool microphone. And these aren't that expensive. These are quite cheap. So if you using a microphone for only a studio, and you want to kind of go into this world, the Slate Digital world, this is a cool way to go. I've got the bigger one too, the ML1, which is better for vocals and things like that. Handy microphones. That's what I use to record all the guitars on Pete and Diesel stuff. I used the big one for all the vocals and Pete and Diesel stuff. I used it quite a lot. I don't think I used it on Abigail's vocals this time. I mix it up. The really good thing about that microphone is, or these microphones, is if you're in a hurry, if you've got a client that's paid you for an hour and they need to get stuff down quickly, you don't have time to audition microphones for their voice. You can have an educated guess on how they sound, but sometimes you don't even have a chance to listen to what they're about to sing or play. Sometimes you've just got to choose the microphones and go because they've only got an hour to get a demo down. That's where these microphones shine, because I can quickly run through the microphones to see which one best suits somebody's voice in this plugin, rather than actually physically putting a microphone in, turning it on and doing another take. I don't need to do that anymore. That's where the microphones shine, and I use that. I use it a lot if time is short and I need to be quick, and especially if you've got clients who rely on the vibe. You don't want them sitting around doing nothing. You want them to be having fun. You want them to be creating and loving what they do. So this one here, this virtual channel, this is emulating a channel strip on a mixing desk. So it's just like the crosstalk and saturation you get on a mixing desk. So you can choose that one. It's handy if you've recorded straight in digitally to add a bit of color. We've chosen this mic. This is the preamp for the mic, which changes again. It's this preamp here, basically. So I can do that digitally later. And then trimmer is just volume. So that's the first things the overheads are going through. Then again, I'm doing some EQ tweaks. This is a big one here. I've taken out so much of the low end. I did that to make the overheads gel with the samples a bit better. So I'm going to bypass these tweaks I've done. I've not touched the low end. I've not touched the low mids, and I've pulled out 1K. So I took some of the mids out and I boosted the high end so much. It's like nearly 10 dB. That's a lot, but that's it's better to be rough and heavy to get the sound you want rather than not. Please ask questions in the chat. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you hear any differences or not, if you can follow or not, if it's interesting. If you have any questions about this project or you want me to jump into something else, please direct me. So we're going to listen to these drum overheads and we're going to bypass this SSL plugin. And I guarantee you it'll be a huge difference. In fact, when I bypass it, it's going to sound better, but it'll sound worse in terms of the whole track. Crazy, huh? So I'll put it back on. Back off. Back on. Back off. Can you guys hear the difference? So let's unsolo it and do that again and see if you can hear the difference in the context of the entire drums. So first of all, it's on and off. On. It's made it so much more violent and clear. Off. On. It's made it sound produced, right? It's made it sound produced, and that's kind of what we're going for. So instead of sending the overheads to a reverb mix, I put a drum room impulse reverb here, just to get it sounding, because it was recorded in quite a. Can totally hear a difference. There's so much more attack. Yes, yeah. Kyle, hop onto that Slate mic. The only downside is you can't just take it and use it live. Well, you can, because the sound of this mic without a plugin isn't awful. It's still a pretty good mic, but the magic is choosing the plugin. So you need a computer to get the best out of it. Whereas if you buy a standard overhead microphone, you can use that at a gig. You can use that in anyone else's recording studio if they don't have a plugin. You know, it's got everything contained, and in like 50 years time might not be able to download the plugin for this. So you got to think about things like that. So this is a reverb basically, but it's a really, really short reverb. So instead of it going like ka, it just makes it sound like you're in a different room. So it's just to add a wee bit of ambience to the overheads, to make them sound more realistic. I think they were recorded in a very controlled room, but we wanted it to sound like a less perfect room to suit the genre. So that's it on, and that's it off. Hear how dry that is. Then back on. Especially with snare drums, a lot of the life is the room it's in. Off. On. What do you think? Off. You even get a ring developed. Doom, 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 doom. That goes away when you add the rim. Such a big part of the drum sound. It's what room you record them in. So if the room you recorded it in doesn't suit the music, we have the technology to emulate the room. It's not perfect. It's better to do it in the real room, but when there's lots going on, you get really close. So that's the drums. We've got like the snare bottom, which normally sounds like absolute poo. Sounds broken, but we added in tom 1 and tom 2. So I've not panned the toms fully left and fully right. I always do the drums from a drummer's perspective, and I think it might be because I play drums sometimes, and if it was the other way around, it would be awful, unless it's on video, which I explained in a past stream. If you're seeing it in video and the high toms on one side and the low toms on the other, you have to mix the audio that way around, or it's gonna be weird. The wrong drum and the wrong speaker, the wrong side. I don't put them all the way. I kind of put them like at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and it gives you a nice vibe of it rolling around the drums. If there's a drum fill, let's see if we can find one here from Davey Boy. Oh, there's a mad drum fill here. Let's do it. I think there's a bigger one somewhere. Where's your big drum fill? Here it is it? Here we go. It's a good drummer, right? So the only guy DC got there was, we need to fill that space, and he just nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Totally makes sense. Lots of home recording just now, so that's where it could come into play. Absolutely. As everyone is using Pro Tools and looking at updating the overheads, opens so many more paths for production, different sounds to suit the client's needs. Always what you look for to be amenable. Nice. That's smart. I mix drums the exact same way, best way I feel. Kyle, you've probably recorded drums more than I have. You've got so many incredible covers, and the sound is great. Whatever you're doing, you're definitely doing well. So then it gets kind of complicated from here. Up here, and this bit here is the sends. So you've got with Pro Tools, up here is the plugins, and the next one is the sends. So I'm sending stuff to bus 1 and 2, which is a reverb. So I've got this Valhalla vintage reverb. Valhalla are an incredible company. Really cheap, well, relatively cheap plugins, and they are world class, and they go so far. They sound lush and lovely. I use Valhalla reverbs on every single project. Here's another one, Shimmer. Valhalla, really well respected. I buy everything they put out. So this snare is sending a wee bit of reverb, but more importantly, it's going to bus 15 and 16, which is going to... Where is that going to? And you thought I was professional. I don't know where 15 and 16 is going anymore. I think I might have changed it. That might be going on the road to nowhere. I'm not going to touch it though. Sounds good. And then this drums a follow. Bobo Plays TV. Thank you very much for your follow. I'm trying to get to 50 follows, so I'm not sure what I'm at, guys. But if you haven't followed, if you click that button, I promise, friends for life. There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't believe you weren't following me already. Absolute travesty. Travesty. So the drums here are in a folder, and in Pro Tools you can do a clever, like in the new version of Pro Tools. Oh, Jamie boy! I forgot that was your nickname. Thank you very much for the follow, Jamie. I'll have to catch up with you soon, man. It's been a long lockdown. I haven't seen you since New Year, I think. A New Year when we were doing that filming. But that was short and sweet. So everything on these drum channels I've selected here go through this channel here. And then they come out of bus 13 and 14, which goes into this one. So all the drums are going through this compressor and this limiter. Then I'm sending 11 and 12 to this channel here. And here's a big plugin. This one's called Monster. And I have a compressor here, and you can choose the ratio of like 4, 8, 12 or 20. It's basically how crushed do you want it once it gets crushed. And if 20 isn't good enough, you can put all 4 buttons in. It was like a hack back in the day. This plugin emulates that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the entire mix of the drums and I'm putting it through this plugin just a wee bit. And it's a monster. It crushes it. And then I feed that back in. So let's have a listen. I'll bypass it. That's it bypassed. And then back on. Then back off. Then back on. It gets a lot more of the after the hit. Talked to DC a while back at work about you going on YouTube or Twitch live streams during lockdown. Twitch music category has some awesome people in it. A great part of Twitch for sure. Yeah, I agree, Jamie. I think it's really wholesome. I like watching people jam out, make some stuff. I think it's all learning is good learning, right? And I like the community aspect of it. I like it when people get involved and chat. It's like a direct connection. And I've been watching a lot of Twitch over lockdown. I think everyone has. It's nice to have in the background to whatever you're doing. So that kind of covers the drums. We're going to hop into the vocals now. Hi, Abigail. So there's a decision here on the vocals, first off, that I got told to do. And my brain says it shouldn't make a difference, but my heart says it does. And it's something I've been doing over the last few months. But this is like a guy that knows his stuff. He's got multiple number ones, and he says every time you hear one of my mixes, I've done this, and he's doubled the vocals. So you mix one exactly as you would, and then you just double it, copy and paste it. This shouldn't make a difference. This should just make it lighter. And maybe it just does, and I pull it down and it's a placebo. However, I'm doing it and things sound good. So we're moving. I know it shouldn't work. So these two vocals, which are an identical copy going into the main vocals plugin, and then the vocals are sending to this delay here, Echo Boy from Sound Tools, and another amazing company. So this is a delay plugin, and the reverb as well to get reverb in the vocals. So let's listen to the vocals and with the effects one at a time. So we'll do the delay first.
Sometimes I think that I can go it alone.
So that's no delay, and this is with the delay on.
I'm fearless, but life can throw me off of my throne. Not afraid to ask when I need a hand.
So the idea of this one is it's bouncing on the time. It's bouncing in time with the song. It kind of gives a nice effect. I have problems with delay if I can notice it, unless you really want to notice it. It just makes me shiver that someone's just thrown a plugin in and it's noticeable. It's one of my things. So there's quite a lot on it, but because of the type of track it is, it gels and it makes it kind of a wee bit 3D because it's filling out gaps. Delay is really good to help a vocal gel with a track without having to smother it with reverb and making the impact less. So these are the settings for that. 1/8 of the tempo of the track. And then again, we're going into this reverb with 1.6 seconds of decay. So if you slap, it'll take 1.6 seconds for that reverb to shut up. But I do other things. With a lot of reverb, I get rid of the low end and I get rid of a lot of the high end. S's, when someone says sausages, they'll hit a reverb a lot harder than the rest of a mouth's noise. So they come in at around 5,000 hertz. So I've cut everything above 3,760 hertz, which isn't a technical number. I just pulled it down till the S's weren't making louder reverb than the rest of the voice. So let's listen to that. Let's listen to it with no reverb and then I'll put it on.
Lady, both in politics and lipsticks, just wearing pink, see what I think, I'm working these colors.
No reverb, and here's the reverb.
Lady, both in politics and lipsticks, just wearing pink, see what I think, I'm working these colors.
Pretty cool, huh? And let's hear it with the delay and the reverb, because why not?
Both in politics and lipsticks, just wearing pink, see what I think, I'm working these colors.
Cool. So these decisions weren't made soloed. I don't make these decisions without having the rest of the track playing as well. And I usually bring it up until I can hear it and then bring it back a wee bit. But sometimes I'll raise the whole vocal, get it sorted, and then so I can hear it clearer, and then put it back down until it gels. It's about being tasteful. So here it is with all the effects on. This is the whole track. Sounding good, Keith. What have we done? Oh, the effects.
Colors. I welcome some kindness, it'll always be free.
So I think we should hop on to an appreciation. This is a world-class drummer. And the reason no one really knows about him is because he lives here. So this is his YouTube page, okay? .divey, but if you type in DC McMillan into YouTube, it's the first one. And he's got loads of drum covers that we've done over the years. I can't believe that was 10 years ago. He's done some recently. If you're learning drums, phenomenal. I think he kind of grew up doing Blink 182, things like that. So he's technically up there. He's been doing Face the West for a long time. So he's very intelligent with the trad world. And he does a lot of rock. He does a lot of country. He does a lot of there's a band that are on my record label called the Tumbling Souls, which is kind of like bluegrassy stuff. So anything he does, like he'll just nail it all. And this is such a good example. Like I couldn't. This is a drum fill that a 10-year-old would ask for.
See what I think, I'm looking these colors. I welcome some kindness.
Yeah, you're right, Kyle. Can instantly hear the difference with these fills. Totally fills the gap. Amazing work from DC. Yeah, let's listen to it without. This is what it was. This is what we sent him.
What I think, I'm looking these colors. I welcome some
So how much life does that bring? And it's even the dynamics of the drums. Like you can hear the snare, even though he's hitting the snare, ba, 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 it's the ramping up of the intensity. It's just a natural talking.
politics and lipstick. Just bringing things, see what I think, I'm looking these colors. I welcome some
I don't even know what drums he's hitting there. Biddly, 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 biddly. He doesn't have that many drums. I don't know what's going on. He makes it. He's only got like 2 toms, but it makes it sound like he's got 5,000. Biddly, 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 biddly. I don't know. It's magic. Can I hear Dave's snare and the piano in chorus together soloed? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The piano doesn't do much, Sean. You're going to be disappointed with my attempts.
I welcome some kind.
Right. Okay, so drums and the piano's just 2 notes, my friend. Here we go. Hold on. Oh yeah. There we go, drums and piano. That's me and Davey boy. My part is much harder than his. So important. So important. Gotta remind you what key you're in. We're in this key. This is the note of the key. The note of the key. The note of the key. Let's hop onto the piano since we went there. So piano plugins are like snares to drummers for me. What's really interesting is that this piano plugin here, This is one that comes free with Pro Tools. And it's not too bad. The reason this one is on this track is because it's just a single note. And this is a classic Keith move. What's the Face to West track you do to? I think that would be all of them, Abigail. Learning my tricks. Or is that a joke? Is that you being sarcastic? Which track? It's in everything. So this... Well, let me tell the story since Abigail's here. We had planned... So I was on the mainland a lot, playing with Heron Valley, traveling around, lots of gigs, which was heaven. It really was. And I was doing a lot of touring with Pete and Diesel too. I was doing the front of house sound, so I was on the mixing desk as well as driving them around. And once I finished that, myself and Abigail were supposed to come up to the studio and spend a week working on our album. But I hadn't been home in probably 3 weeks because I'd be working with Pete and Diesel or Heron Valley at the weekend, and then the ferries would be cancelled on the Monday and the Tuesday and maybe the Wednesday of the week because of bad weather. So there was no point in me going home on the Thursday to come off the island again on the Friday to go touring again. So I was a homeless person living with my very kind sister-in-law in Renfrew most of the time. So instead of working on songs up here, I went round to Abigail's flat and we just sat on her floor and recorded phone demos of a lot of these songs. And then I was phoning around studios in Scotland to see if we could dry hire a studio. Got in touch with my friend Nick Turner, who owns Watercolour Studios, a really nice feeling, really well kitted out studio in Ardgour that you can sleep over at. There's a house connected to it. So we hired it for 3 days. We went up and we recorded what was meant to be the first like demo versions of maybe 3 or 4 of the songs in the album. And there was no plugins in the computer and it was just a really cheap MIDI keyboard that was there. So this was the only piano sound in the whole studio. But because it's just 2 notes, it worked. So I'm not changing it. If it sounds good, it's good. And then after that, I just took out the low end because we didn't need it. It's just 2 high notes. And then I'm sending some reverb. Simples. See that now? See if you hire me to play your piano. You get a lot for your money. Okay. So where have we moved to? We had to listen to the guitars, but we didn't really look at the plugins or anything. So let's hop in. So another big part of the sound is getting the wooden instruments correct, getting the real stuff, the correct texture. Because if I use a lot of plugins and it's not like a synth heavy genre like dance or anything like that, then I want the wooden instruments or the real instruments to have a lot of muscle, to have a lot of weight in the mix, to make it sound real. For example, real drums, real acoustic. And I probably put acoustic on 95% of the stuff I produce. I remember I'd gone to bed and woke up in the morning to find you'd done this saying you'd stayed up till 3. I still feel like you're a liar now. You've shared your piano secret. I would never lie to you, Abigail. And you don't know the stress. You don't know the stress of putting down a very, very simple part and having to live with it. And not... So it was a 3 or 4 hour struggle with my ego. So here's the acoustics. We can take the piano out now. Again, just simple playing for the greater good. Such a big part to country music as well, I think. Now, the thing with recording acoustic instruments is if you get it right, if you get the positioning right and the microphone right and the playing right, right strings, right room, right pick, you had the right thing for lunch. If you get it right and it sounds good and it sounds good in the mix, it's good. It's good. Like, move on. Don't feel like you have to do loads to it. So that's what's happening here. So I've put it through my mixing desk emulation, which I like. I didn't touch this EQ. I didn't touch this EQ, which means I did touch it, and then I put it back to normal. I think I'm doing a wee bit of compression. No, it's not even hit the compressor. So this, apart from a little bit of shimmer here, is all I did with the acoustics. So the acoustics are pretty much how it sounded when I recorded them. And that is a classic Keith move as well, because I would have started the mix with the acoustic and gone, I really like the sound of that. I don't want to touch it. I will sacrifice everything else in this track for that acoustic sound because I want that to stay the way it is. So I'd record electric and I'd take out the frequencies that was clashing with the acoustic. I'd take them out in the electric. Same with the bass. If the bass was clashing with it, as long as it wasn't like sub bass, I'd let the acoustic have it. The piano, I'd let the acoustic, I'd design the parts around what the acoustic did because I wanted that to be the focal, not the focal point, but I wanted that to be the engine, the undercurrent, the muscle of the track. So the good thing about producing music yourself, that you're recording yourself, is you can make decisions based on the later sections of what you have to do. So a band might come in and they've already recorded their parts. You don't go to them and go, don't play that part anymore because it's going to be really hard for me to EQ it because you're playing the same notes as this guy. You can do that if you've got a really good relationship to them. But if they've hired you just to be the recording engineer, that kind of, the lines are blurred these days, but that kind of moves you into a producer or a musical director kind of role. And you might not want to be that because you might mess with the aesthetics of that band. It might be their sound and they might know their fan base better than you do. They might know their genre better than you do. Chances are that's true. So you've got to be really careful of manipulating the sound like that. Sometimes you've just got to, if you love it, let it go. Let it blossom the way it's going to blossom. And sometimes it turns out better than if you were doing it yourself. However, this was I had free reign from Abigail. We were very in sync with our decisions. So when I was recording one part and I'd move on to another instrument, my first thought is to complement what I've just done, not I'm going to do the same, or not I'm better at playing this chord than that chord. I'm always going, right, I've done this exactly here, so I'll move this here, or I'll play these notes because I'm not playing these notes yet, and that'll be a nice harmony. That's always going through the back of my head when I'm playing, which might make the playing a little more simple, but when you do decisions like that for the greater good, you come out with a better track. So we're going to hop onto the electrics. So if I was recording the electrics after the acoustic, I would record a bit of the electric and I would be tweaking the microphone choice, tweaking the microphone placement, tweaking the settings in the amp to make it blend with the acoustics. See? You wanted to make it better. And that happens in the mixing decisions as well. So when I was in watercolor, he didn't have the slate plugins, which I use a lot, but he did have these waves plugins. So one decision I made when tracking was to take out 5K, which is kind of a frequency that might be harsh. So I might have liked what the amp was doing, but I just didn't like this frequency. So I took it out of this one and this one, and I gave a wee boost to the other channel just to differentiate it from the other one, just to make it sound a little different, make it blend. Not much. And then once I got it into this studio and started mixing, Here we go again. We've got the channel saturation, a boost at 4.5k to give it a basically to undo what I did in this plugin. So maybe it would have been fine. And pulling down like 800 hertz, which is kind of like a head tone. It's not nasally. Nasally is more like 1k, but like 8k is it's like a resonant skull frequency. I'm talking absolute nonsense if you don't know what I'm talking about. And I pulled out the sub frequencies down here up to like 60 hertz, so it wasn't messing with the bass or the kick drum. And just tiny bit on the compressor. A lot of the time I'll pull the compressor down to squash it, and then later in the mix I'm undoing it because I've found some space for it somewhere else and letting it shine a bit more, letting it take a wee bit more room in the mix. So that'd be kind of similar for both. I probably just copied it over. Correct. Same again. So all the electrics, even though they sound different, I just pulled the same settings over all of them. And the reason I could do that is because I made the decisions while I was recording. I changed the amp, basically, or I changed the pickup on the guitar. So that sped things up on the mixing because it was kind of close. Bass. So bass is interesting. I tweak bass quite a lot. My bass sounds. Bass is hard because you might make it sound amazing by itself, and then when you've got it in with a track, it's clashing with a lot of stuff. It's what you miss a lot when you pull it out, but it's hard to make it noticeable when you fit. So when I soloed this earlier and had a listen, it didn't have any high end. And I would never normally choose that. I really want to hear the strings. I want it to sound natural. But I obviously pulled it out to give it a sound that would support rather than be noticeable.
Expectations burning in my brain. Don't try me, don't push me, I'm not playing that game.
It was obviously to fit with the groove with the kick drum. Let's have a listen to them together. There we go. So now looking back, there's this plugin here, which is a amp emulator and cabinet emulator. I've bypassed this in the mix. So I was obviously playing with it and then bypassed it and gone, oh, that's better. A lot of time I would have just gone with it. But because we are really caring about this track and spent a lot of time and came back with refreshed ears in the morning a lot of times, pulling it out, I would have just pulled out and gone, okay, it fits better in the mix. Then I've got a compressor here. So this is Wave's version of the compressor I have here, the 1176. It's probably my favorite compressor. I know how it works. I know how to make it growl, and it can change the sound of something dramatically. So it's like once you learn the intricacies and you learn how to mess it up, it's really good tool. This is compressing the life out of this bass down to -10. That's the beauty of this compressor. You can absolutely go to town and it works. Tried and tested. Now look at this crazy EQ. That's because I'm sacrificing things out of the bass for the greater good, like the kick drum or the acoustics. So again, here you've got some EQs pulling out the low end, and then, as I said, that just kind of tails it off with the SSL. It doesn't kill it all, so there's still loads of bass happening. Oh, the reason I do that is I get rid of this as much sub bass as I can, because Here's a crazy good plugin. So this is taking the original bass and it's creating harmonics and like the octave above. So you might have an incredible sound system, but as soon as you take it off that system and listen to it on a phone or headphones or a TV, you can't hear any bass. So what this does is it looks at like the sub frequencies of the bass and puts it in the higher register. So you can hear that bass because of the harmonics on smaller speakers. It's very clever. Now what I do is I pull down the original and I boost the harmonics a wee bit more. I just find you get a much smoother sound out of it. Shout out to Billy Decker again, who suggested this technique, and it just makes it fit with the kick drums so well.
Ain't got a pity, think I'm standing here just to look pretty. I'm not
Now there's types of music where you want like instruments to be popping out in random places, but there's types of music like this, like modern country rock, where you want everything to find its space and fill in the frequency spectrum in a really pleasing way the whole time. So we're pretty much there. The last thing we're going to look at is my mental synth here that I don't think Abigail would have heard. I don't think I would have let her hear this soloed. I think this would have been a decision. Let's go to clips. This would have been a decision. Oh, there's organ. Let's do that first. She would definitely heard this. Distorted organ. So we've got a cheap organ sample from a plugin that comes free with Pro Tools, and then I put it through rectify distortion, and then I EQ'd it to get that sound. This is it without the extra plugins. A staple in the album, yeah, I think I agree. And then this is it messed up. Sounds worse on its own, but fits in the mix. So here's the synth. Sorry, Abigail. You wouldn't have heard this. You would have just noticed that the track got a wee bit more is more, right? Not less is more. And I am a synth head. I have lots of synths. I like messing around with synths. If I could get away with just playing with synths all day, I would. In fact, that's probably the closest I've ever come. Proper Hammond sounding organ, thank you. And good for a cheap plugin. Like, you don't have to spend megabucks to get stuff sounding good. Just put other plugins in to dirty it up, make it sound more real. So this synth is from, this is again a free plugin in Pro Tools. Excuse me. The organ just got me. So, yeah, lots of knobs that I like tweaking to make something horrible and yucky. This is a compressor to shut it up. An EQ, boosted the low end, cut the middle, and finally boosted all the sub frequencies to let the bass guitar and the kick drum shine through. And this is what it sounds like. What do you think, Abigail? Would you have said yes to this? She says I'm howling. Sounds like the apocalypse, right? So I'm going to bypass the EQs after it and the compressor, see what it sounds like without my tweaking. Pretty similar. I think I just needed it more beefy. So it's a subtle addition, right? So let's listen to the chorus without it. Then we'll listen to the chorus with it. See if you can feel it coming in. That's without it, and this is with it. Yeah. what I did with this is very clever. This synth is sidechained to bus 6. Sounds like your motor. Yeah, it does. Maybe that was the influence. So this compressor isn't listening to the synth to compress it. This compressor is listening to... Let's see what's sending out number 6. The piano. How clever is that? I'm a genius. I totally forgot about that. So I didn't link it to the kick drum because Dave's going boom, boom, ba-boom, boom, 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 and we didn't want it. And we did every time. Basically, what a sidechain compressor does is every time the kick kicks, it pulls down the volume of something else. This being the synth, but I couldn't do it with the kick because Dave's so busy with it because he's a genius. However, I did find. I did find a much less talented performer in this track playing a very simple piece. So it was the piano hitting it. So every time the piano hits, that synth ducks down to give movement. So let's see if this works. Can you hear it? So without it? With it? Cool, huh? Now we have a dance track. We need a kick drum. Okay, cool. If anyone wants to remix any of this, give me a shout. I'll send you the stems. So, on top of that, I've got a master channel here. Now, I did get some of your best piano playing. You know what? I'm proud of it. I'll take it. I'll take it. If it gets me gigs. Yearly would be proud. Wouldn't he just? You'd be saying, Keith, finally, you're practicing. So, this is the master channel. So whatever I put in this channel goes on everything. And I put stuff in the master channel. Even though I sent this track away to a pal of mine in Nashville who did an incredible job, who was desperate to do it. I still put stuff in the master channel to get color and the sound I want. So the first thing I do is I take off the really, really sub stuff. So that's what that's doing. Everything under 23 hertz is gone. Then this is really good. I really like this. So this is an emulation of 3 different compressors, and I used all 3, but they're only compressing just 1 dB each, or 2 in this case. That's just to get it, what's it called? Bit smoother, just to fit a bit more volume in, a bit more aggression. This Radiator preamp emulation's really good. It just gives it a bit of warmth and grunt. Just one of these emulates some old equipment you can put it through to make it sound more warm or more violent or whatever. Add more heat, and this is an emulation of a really, really old compressor. Again, it's just adding color. Just a wee bit of compression everywhere adds a wee bit of color everywhere. And it's just adding imperfections, which creates something that sounds real rather than something that's sterile in a computer. And then finally, I've got Ozone 8 here, which I bypassed before I sent it to the mastering engineer, who I asked to, basically his job was to do this better. And then I was just tweaking the EQs, just really wide sweeps. I didn't use any dynamics. This is a dynamic EQ like I explained before. So this dips down frequencies that it was just to give it a bit more life, and it was so I could push it into the maximizer more without the frequencies making it trigger before it should have. And this maximizer, basically what this is like a brick wall limiter, so it just makes the volume louder, pulls it up. You can see it ducking down there. Again, if you push that a wee bit, adds a wee bit of nice colour. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. This is the situation. Abigail recorded some stuff. I recorded a lot of the stuff. A couple of friends joined in with this one. Really proud of this track. It's a really, really brave one, especially for Abigail. Her natural singing voice is a contained speaking tone, really controlled. This is an absolute blaster, which is what we wanted to do. You know, come out of her comfort zone, grow. She doesn't get that many opportunities to absolutely lash out. So this was proved to her, I think, that she has that ability, as good as anyone. Loads of energy, cuts through well. I think it's a really unique track. The message of the track, of the lyrics, I always skim over lyrics. I'm always bad for focusing on technicalities, but the lyrics are really important, especially to my female pals who feel that they're struggling a bit more, and I absolutely agree with them. The opportunities are harder to get, harder to survive, harder to get the same recognition for the same efforts, basically. So this whole song was about empowering women, about women being powerful, being respected, having the same opportunities, living just a good life, as good a life as their male counterparts, even in the playing field, and to get rid of any preconceptions that your gender decides how good you are at something, or how competent you are, or how reliable you are, or how creative you are. That's a load of rubbish. The best musicians I work with are female, absolutely, with no question, and the ones I respect the most. How long did you spend on Pro Tools to get to this stage? I guess every song in the album takes a different amount of time to get to the final stage. Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working on recording software from since 2001, maybe, when my father had it at home, and I was kind of getting into Cakewalk back then, and I moved into Pro Tools probably 10 years ago. Got dragged in kicking and screaming with the industry. So just a bit every day. I think that you get to a level where you know what all the buttons do, but then you don't know why you should do it or when you should do it. Sorry, I may have missed you talking about this. Do you use stereo enhance the master track? Very good question, Sean. The answer is sometimes. I didn't in this one, but I suspect the mastering engineer did. It's a dangerous toy. It always is going to sound better when you're sitting perfectly in a tuned room in between two speakers, perfectly placed in between, with your head in between. It's always going to sound better, but it might sound worse when you put it through your Alexa at home or a boombox that's only got one speaker and you're cancelling out frequencies. Sometimes I think I like using it a lot more with effects. So if I had like a really long reverb in the background, I would separate that mother beyond, like it would feel like it's coming from behind you, like a bed of reverb underneath it in the key, something like that. I would have it so spread wide. The reason being I put it on things like that is if you've got a single speaker and that diminishes, you lose the low end out of it. It's not such a big deal. You've still got the entire song. You're just losing a wee bit of the ambience. So things like that, things that I wouldn't really miss. Putting it on the master track, the more you put, the more dangerous it gets. And you got to think about trade-offs. Like that song's going to sound better than a song that doesn't in a perfect situation, but 95% of the people listening to it might not have a perfect situation. Even if they've got really expensive headphones, the separation of headphones is much wider than speakers. So you're already as far as you can go with headphones. So if you go further, you don't get the same payoff as you do with speakers. So Yeah, the answer sometimes. What a rubbish answer. But it's when you start playing with like stereo enhancement, because it's basically like messing up your phasing. Once you start playing with that, you have to be more careful. You have to test it on more things. Whereas if you kind of leave it like this, you can have the confidence that your bass guitar hasn't disappeared. So yeah, sometimes is the answer. Depends on the type of music as well. If it was dance music, I'd be much more rough with it. If it was acoustic music, I wouldn't even touch it. I'd be much more gentle. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me today, guys. I'm going to finish off by playing the video one more time. So yeah, please stay for that. And it's out in midnight, so please share it. I mean, Abigail deserves it. The amount of work she's put into this, and the amount of opportunities that musical generation has missed out on in the last year or so. A wee bit of extra clicking from people would go a long way. Yeah, so do what you can. Be fans. Get in touch. She'll answer every single one of your questions, and she'll say hello to absolutely everybody in real life too. Once we can get gigging. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with this. I love you all. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I'll be streaming sometime very soon. Totally with your message regarding the lyrics in the video. You've all done great. Well done. Cool. Thank you. And on that note from my mother, please come next time and click follow. I need 50 followers, so please click follow. All right. Peace out.
Work I Lear.
In my brain, don't try me, don't push me, I'm not playing that game. I'm a lady, but you ain't got a pity. Think I'm standing here just to look pretty. I'm not one for the little black dress. I praise the girls with that finesse. Lady, not a honey, not a baby, not a diva. Just a fighter, how I drive her. A lady and a worker giving orders. Not a wife, just living lifetime wine and water. Lady, not a darling, smiling for you, not a diva. No, I'm not dramatic either. A lady, broken politics and lipsticks. Just wearing pink, see what I think. I'm working these colors. Sometimes I